Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. Thanks for joining us today. We have an exciting topic, of course. Before we get started, I'll just cover a few points of administration for today. I'm going to be introducing our main guest for today, which is Danik Malademi, in just a minute. But we will be answering your questions at the end of today's sessions. So if you have questions as we're going through the webinar, please enter them through the chat if you're on watching this live. And we'll be sending a recording for everybody that registered for today. So if you registered for the event, then watch your email, you'll get a full recording within the next day or two. So my name is Steve Oken. I'm the president of CoreALM. Welcome to today's webinar. We have an exciting topic today, which is a product deep dive on the ServiceNow connector for SAP Solution Manager alerting. So why is this topic relevant? So many people are using ServiceNow to track all of their alerts and all of their incidents inside of ServiceNow. It's a very common tool as part of an ITSM suite. And but also, of course, if you're running SAP, then you may be using Solution Manager to capture alerts in SAP from your production environments or even from your lower environments as well. And so people want to have the opportunity to use both of those tools in parallel and to have them integrated and to have a seamless process for managing those things. So you don't have to do duplicated entry between those two different systems, which slows things down and makes it less efficient. So that's exactly what we're going to cover today. I'm excited to introduce Danik Malademi, who's one of our prime ALM architects here at CoreALM. We're very lucky to have him. He's got a lot of experience having implemented these types of tools for very large companies such as QVC and many others. Danik, welcome to the webinar.
Thanks for having me on, Steve.
All right, and before we get started, I'm just going to share my screen with a few slides so that I can give you some background on who we are as CoreALM in case you're new to CoreALM. So first, we've been in business for 14 years or so, even longer. And the company was founded by our CEO and founder, Labinot Bertucci, who at the time he was working at SAP. Many of our team actually has a prior life working at SAP in this space specifically. But Labinot, when he was there about 14 years ago, he saw a gap in the marketplace. There was nobody out there as another service providing firm that was providing application lifecycle management services specifically for SAP. And he decided to found CoreALM to do exactly that. You know, he could see that SAP wasn't able to service the demand from all those customers. So quickly was able to get a lot of customers from SAP to provide those types of services. At the time, it was only Solution Manager as the primary ALM solution from SAP. And now we have SAP Cloud ALM. So that's kind of, and Solution Manager has continued to evolve, although it's coming towards the end of life, but still very relevant in the marketplace today. So it was about 2018 when he noticed that there was a real opportunity that many of the customers that we have been serving at that time were running, of course, SAP as a primary central application in their landscape, but they had many other applications that they needed to support as well. And for those other applications, they used other tools such as Jira, Azure DevOps, and of course, ServiceNow. And saw an opportunity to build integrations between ServiceNow and Solution Manager and Cloud ALM to provide those types of seamless integrations. So that is really the origin of our product line. And so that was back in 2018. Since then, we have served some of SAP's biggest customers, both from a services perspective, as well as many of these customers are running our software and have been running them for a number of years, going through upgrades and updates on both the Solution Manager side, as well as ServiceNow or Jira, whatever they're using. And they're putting very large volumes of changes through those processes, a lot of tickets, incidents, a lot of projects and work items. We have focus build integrations as well. So yeah, a lot of experience with some big customers in very challenging environments. As CoreALM, we cover all aspects of the application lifecycle management process. So whether you're early on in your SAP journey, or you're just implementing S4, or you've been running either ECC or S4 for a long period of time, and you're more in a maintenance mode right now, we can cover all of those cycles. And we do it from end to end. So we start all the way from the design phase, planning, getting into requirements management. On the build side, we can help you with agile project management, testing. We get involved in taking those requirements and actually converting them into test cases, providing test traceability, as well as orchestration for manual testing and automation for automated testing. For that, we use a variety of tools. Lately, we've had a lot of customers interested in using Tricentis, Tosca, and Live Compare for test automation and test optimization. We provide release management services as well, of course. We have integrations with ServiceNow, with Azure DevOps, with Jira to manage changes, whether it's with Charm or CloudALM or directly with SAP Transport Management. We have those capabilities, and we have monitoring as well. So in maintenance mode, we can do business process monitoring or technical monitoring for your applications using various tools. The main thing is with the SAP platform, of course, there is Solution Manager, there is CloudALM. Solution Manager is coming towards the end of life, but it has a very robust set of features. CloudALM is new on the scene, and it has less features than Solution Manager, but it is the go-forward approach for SAP. But there's usually gaps in terms of being able to have a seamless experience when you're using Jira or Solution Manager, ServiceNow, Azure DevOps. Sometimes that leads to, obviously the users have to log into multiple tools. There is often a duplication of entry required for certain pieces of data, and there's a lack of automation. So that leads to inconsistencies between the data in those different applications. So that's where our tools fit in. We have direct connectors for Solution Manager components. Quite a few of them. We're going to be talking about the alerting one today, but we also have Focus Build, Charm integrations. CloudALM, we have all the implementation capabilities, as well as some alerting integrations as well on the CloudALM side. And we also have a integration directly for transport management from ServiceNow, Azure DevOps, and Jira directly to SAP Transport Management Services. So again, lots of options for how you can connect and have one seamless experience. This is a quick look at our product line, which covers Solution Manager, CloudALM, and Direct Transport Management. And you can see all the different areas that are covered from an operational perspective. So that's really what I wanted to share in terms of our background. But Donik, I'm going to turn it over to you. And so hopefully you can walk us through, and excited to see how we can actually use ServiceNow to manage our incidents inside of Solution Manager.
Thank you very much, Steve. I really appreciate the introduction. And can you just confirm that you can see my screen? Awesome.
Yes,
thank you very much.
We can.
Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As Steve introduced us today, what we're going to be talking about is the integration or the CoreALM tool that helps us integrate the ServiceNow system with Solution Manager alerting. So at a high level, when we take a look at the typical customer environment, what we're going to notice is non-SAP applications, SAP applications, databases, whether they're SAP or not, or whether they serve SAP systems or not. Customer has all of these in their environment, and typically they are connected to a Solution Manager from a software maintenance perspective and many other reasons, but some of which are monitoring. Many customers do enable different kind of monitoring, whether it's system monitoring, user experience monitoring, integration monitoring, job monitoring, and HANA NBI monitoring. So as a result, upon activating such monitoring, what we end up with is alerts in Solution Manager, and they end up in what's called the alert inbox. In addition to that, for each alert, we have a lot of details about it. as far as the metrics, the thresholds that are breached, and details about the alert itself. And then typically customers, what they did is once these alerts are generated, they either emailed that particular incident to either a mailbox where different teams addressed it, or the other way was to create a ticket manually in an ITSM tool, whether it's in Solution Manager or ServiceNow. And as you can imagine, what this does, it introduces the opportunity for mistakes, because now you have two systems that are not synchronized. You have alerts in one and you have an incident on the other. So once the incident is resolved, let's say in the ITSM tool, then you have to come back in the alert inbox and confirm those alerts to make sure that the tool will capture, the next time something goes wrong with the system. So what we've done at CoreALM is we've built a connector. So essentially it takes the Solution Manager alerts. Now we don't have to configure the ITSM suite. We can just take the alerts that are generated, so no tickets in Solution Manager, just the alerts are integrated using the CoreALM connector. And we are integrating with ServiceNow ITSM portion or the incident directly. So we can integrate with events, and then events could trigger incidents, or we could directly integrate with incident. And what we're going to be talking about today in terms of workflow, we're going to be focusing more on the incident portion of ServiceNow. So what this tool will allow us to do, the connector now, is it will allow us to manage the alert directly from ServiceNow, but also pass information from Solution Manager to ServiceNow and pass all the details. And then once the alert is confirmed on one side, we will close the corresponding incident on ServiceNow. Or once you close it in ServiceNow, we will be able to confirm the alert in Solution Manager without having to log into two different systems. In addition to that, all further updates, so for example, let's say a disk usage is at 90%, and then the disk fills up to 99%, and that mini update will also be visible and say, okay, now the latest threshold is, or the latest figure is 99% full, so it's no longer 90. And then you can, if such event occurs, you could also set up rules to where you can go from a high ticket to a very high ticket, so you could change the priority dynamically. So once we create the incident in ServiceNow, or once one is created, then we have to go through the workflow. There are statuses that are available, but today what we're going to do is look at a very simple scenario where an alert is created in Solution Manager automatically based on the templates that you have set up. This, once the connector is deployed, what this will do is it'll trigger the creation of the incident in ServiceNow, and it'll be in status new. Then in ServiceNow, you can set up all different rules as far as notifying, depending on which group it's assigned to, and you can enable notifications, or SLAs will kick in to where teams will, their attention will be directed towards the incidents that need to be resolved. But essentially, once they're in status new, a user will go in and start processing the incident. One of the options that they'll have is to cancel the incident, because upon inspection of the system, they realize that, okay, it was just a temporary glitch, we're back to normal, and no longer do we need to have this incident present. So once we cancel the incident in ServiceNow, what will happen is that with the use of the connector, we will confirm the Solution Manager alert as well. Now, if the issue was closed by mistake or it was canceled by mistake, the tool will, depending on the timing on the template, it will recheck that particular metric, and then it'll report back. If the issue is still present, a new alert will be created, and then we will start the process again. Let's assume the first time was a mistake, but the second time we have an incident, and now we're going to process it. So the user can choose to process, and they will put it in status in progress. They'll work through the whatever changes need to be made, whatever needs to be done to resolve that particular issue. To pause the SLAs, the user could choose to put it on hold, or they could choose to resolve the issue. So once all the errors have been removed, disk has been cleared out, or whatever the issue is, once that issue is resolved, we could choose to confirm the alert at that time. Or in ServiceNow, we have two statuses. One is at least on the out-of-the-box ServiceNow, we have the resolved status, and then we have the closed status. So our tool is flexible enough that will allow us to choose which status do we want to map to and confirm the solution manager alert, whether it's at resolved or closed status. And that's just really going to depend on the setup or the different customers' environment, and depending on the activities that are executed in each of these statuses, because some customers will choose to resolve and then do the inspection and then say, yep, it's definitely been, the issue's been resolved, and then close the ticket. So the main idea here is that our connector is pretty flexible, and these arrows that we're seeing here, or the mapping, this mapping is can be changed dynamically. So we can decide and choose to say which status, for example, you know, if let's just say you have an additional custom status between in progress and resolved, and you want to use that status to confirm the alert, we can definitely map to that. So we're not bound to what we're seeing here on the screen. This is just a very simple example. So upon creation of the incident in ServiceNow, in this case, what we're going to see is that we're going to capture certain information from the alert from SAP and push it to ServiceNow. Some of the details that we send by default at the bare minimum is we send the caller information, we send the alert ID, you can see here, then we send a short description, which is exactly what's coming from the SAP alert, which is the SID, and then the metric, the metric within the template. And then the description will contain more details about that particular metric. So you don't necessarily have to log into the SAP system to see what's wrong with it, but at least you have some description that says, here's your instance, the details about the host, the timestamp, and then a description about this particular error. So it does assist us a little bit in starting to troubleshoot this particular issue. In addition to that, we do send the priority and the assignment group. And I want to mention on the assignment group, we'll see on the next slide, is that we do have some advanced capabilities when it comes to assignment group and some calculations that we do on the fly. So I'll take you through that. Now, if needed, we can certainly expand and map other fields if it makes sense, provided that the data type matches. For example, if such data is available in SAP, for example, like configuration item, and we're mapped, our configuration items are the same across both, we could pass that, we could pass the services. So really, the connector is pretty flexible in terms of which fields we want to send. The main idea here is that the data is available. Once it's available, then the connector can handle it. Okay. One of the things that you're not going to see in other tools out there in terms of from when it comes to integration and different tools, whether when it comes to assignment of an incident to a specific group, you're not going to see a tool like we have developed, because what we've done is we've created a set of rules, or an area where you can create rules and define your own rules, where you can calculate the assignment group based on some expressions or some rules that you set up. So what you see here across the top is different rules that we've set up. In the middle is the section where we describe, what the assignment group, the description, and then on the bottom we have a few fields that we can add, and we can build our query and say the systems that match this specific query, we can assign them to a specific assignment group. For example, let's say you want to send your database alerts, even though they are SAP-related databases, but you have a dedicated database team, you could choose to select the metrics that are related to the database. You could assign those to the database group. SAP-related metrics, you could assign those to the SAP teams. Or you can further break them down and depending on what type it is. For example, it's an SAP metric, but related to the OS. If you're a large organization, you might have a dedicated team for that. Well, we can isolate those specific metrics based on that data and assign it to those groups. So this way you don't have a big, let's say, group where you assign all the tickets and then people from different teams go and pick them, read the ticket and say, well, this is relevant for us, I'm going to pick it, or however you assign the ticket. In this case, you can calculate that assignment. This has proven to be very useful for a lot of customers as far as being able to segregate the assignment of different incidents. In addition to that, we also have some specific rules where we go beyond what SAP does in terms of alert suppression. When it comes to alert suppression, what we want to make sure is, for example, let's say you have a database down, which impacts 3 different app servers, because all of 3 app servers could not connect to the database. And all 3 app servers might raise an alert and say app server 1, app server 2, app server 3 cannot connect. But what we do is we've added a little bit of logic to say that in such cases, what we're going to do is we're going to bundle and we're going to check and say, well, there is already an incident for this specific system that relates to an outage, which relates to a database outage. So what we're going to do is we're going to suppress the alerts and not send 3 alerts or create 3 incidents. And say for each app server, we're going to create a separate incident. In this case, we're going to bundle all 3 and say these are all related to a common denominator, in this case, a database being out. Therefore, the app server, it makes sense that it's down, but we're not going to create an incident. We're just going to piggyback or bundle it into the existing incident. So that's some of the logic that we will bring into the table upon deployment of the connector. Now what I'm going to do is just spend a couple of minutes here on the live demonstration just to show you some of these tools. So what I'm going to do first is we're going to take a look at our configuration page. So once the connector is deployed, on the SAP side, we have a Fiori app where we have this landing page where we give the user the preparation step, which gives us essentially a checklist of things to do. There are details about each of these, what needs to be done, import, transport, parameter adjustment, whatever is needed. Then we provide the user with a connector integration area. This is essentially the connections between the SAP system and the ServiceNow instance. This is where they're defined. And then we have the assignment rules. And this is an example, the assignment rule that I mentioned. You can create your own rule, provide the assignment group that you want to, or at least the assignment group for the specific rule. And let me just go ahead and pick one that already exists. In this case, we're going to assign to a network group if the alert contains the value gateway. So we can go after specific alerts that are defined, or we can use wildcard or use just say gateway. Anything with the word gateway in it, we want to isolate it and assign it to the network group. This is just an example, might not be the best one, but we have examples here. Now, what I'm going to do is show you one that has a little bit more advanced filtering, if you will. So what we're saying, for example, let's say you want to isolate your S4 system and say, hey, S4 gets special treatment. In that case, we want to, all the objects about S4, every instance, I want to handle it this way. If either of these is down, and this is where we can take advantage of the advanced formulas that we have. You can see we also have brackets here that we can bracket things. Like this logic can get pretty complex, but the flexibility is there to pretty much build just about any query that we need to really help us run our business from a day-to-day perspective. Now, this is as far as the tool. Typically, you're going to be here once, you're going to configure this once, and then the tool just runs in the background. Here's an example of some incidents that we have that were created by the integration. And we can see here that these were initiated by integration. And then if we open one, let's take a look here. It says we're passing this is who created this incident. So we know we can filter for the ones that came from SAP systems. And then we have the alert ID here, and we have a link where we can click that'll take us directly to the incident that was sent. You can see this is the PRD ABAP system not available, all the related details. We have the details, but what we're also doing here is back on the alert, we're providing the incident number for the ServiceNow. So now we have circular reference because alert is pointing to the incident in ServiceNow. ServiceNow has the alert ID that we can go to SAP. So we're never kind of lost. We always have these links that we can go back and forth. And essentially, this is information that comes in here. We will handle all the request whatever is required on here. For example, if we choose to resolve, all the rules that you have currently in ServiceNow, they remain intact. Nothing gets impacted in terms of your workflow. We're just saying that once you reach a certain status, we want to pass some information to SAP or close the incident. And then, if we need to provide resolution information, because we have the connector running, none of this changes. You can still maintain all the workflows, approvals, everything that you currently have configured. So with that said, I just want to wrap up and just emphasize that the idea behind the connector was really to connect the two systems, streamline the data exchange and the status update from one tool to another, and assist you with some alert suppression and some advanced group assignment if you choose to use those. Thank you very much for attention.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sonic. The filtering capabilities are really great, like the ability to make sure, because I'm sure that's a big pain point that, when you have many different types of alerts that are going on, having all of that stuff create multiple alerts just expands the work needed to be done. So if that can be consolidated, that seems like a great feature. And I guess to get started, you kind of build them up over time, right? Like you don't have to start with a whole bunch of rules, but as you encounter issues and alerts, then you can add those filter and they just continue to build. Is that right?
Yes, exactly. And that's the beauty, is that it's all dynamic. It's a time of execution. So if anything changes on your side, your assignment groups change or you expand or become smaller, we can always adjust the rules. And,
awesome.
those will take effect from that point on.
So what does it take to get the connector installed? What's the process and how long does it usually take to get that done?
Okay, so yeah, the installation actually is pretty straightforward. We have this application is deployed on two portions. One is the ServiceNow side, which you can download the connector from the ServiceNow store. Then also we have the SAP side that we would provide the transport via the transport that contains the software for Solution Manager, for your version of Solution Manager. And then essentially it's connecting the two systems. So it's import the transport, deploy an app, and then connect the system. So usually the longest pole in the tent is the networking and getting the two discussing, but we're using standard protocols, nothing significant here. So we should be able to fit into pretty much any organization, just using a mid server, for example, all standard tools. So it's pretty straightforward and pretty quick to deploy. Okay,
so we're talking days, weeks, months?
Oh, days. We're talking days, and essentially,
nice.
Once the team can get the network opened and connections and users created, we should be able to move pretty quickly.
That's great. Yeah. Okay, awesome. And then I guess, by the way, if anybody that's watching live has a question, please enter it in the chat. Be happy to take that on. Otherwise, I'll talk at the end about how you can reach out to us directly for more information. But I imagine if people are using the ITSM component, you also said that, of course, the normal ITSM process is that sometimes an incident can be resolved. It's just like a technical issue that can be fixed. Other times, maybe there's an issue because of data configuration or code that's on the SAP side. So in those cases, you may have to do an SAP transport. So we have the ability to connect those processes up, especially if you're using ServiceNow, because you can convert that incident into a problem and then generate a change request. And for those change requests, you can actually tie those change requests to an SAP change document inside of Charm or whatever you're using for transport management. We have integrations for those components as well, so that you have the full ITSM component between ServiceNow connected up with SAP. So lots of different options there. Donik, I want to thank you for your time. Thanks, everybody. If you're watching live, thanks for joining us and taking the time today. If you're watching on the recording, thanks for getting all the way to the end of that. If any of you do have any questions for us, the easiest way to get a hold of us is to go to our website, which is CoreALM.com. That's CoreALM.com. If you go to our resources page, so it's CoreALM/resources, as it says up on the screen right now, then you can see all of our upcoming webinars. We do have some exciting topics. We have some case studies coming up with one of our customers regarding live compare and Tosca from Tricentis, so that's very exciting. That'll be coming up, and many other topics that you can find there. If you want to get a hold of us, the easiest is on our website, the top right corner. You can click on the Talk to an Expert button, and that'll bring you to a form where you can enter your information, and we'll get back to you quickly. All right. Thanks, Donick. Thanks, everyone, for joining us today. If you're watching the recording, thanks for getting to the end, and hope you have a great rest of your day.